Welcome to the CAD-ET quick training video on Winflash. For this demonstration, we're actually going to start in SysWeb and then move over into CAD-ET to see the Winflash feature. But I wanted to show some changes that have been made to the Flash files that then correspond to changes made within CAD-ET. So you'll notice once you search for your machine serial number that you receive an entire list of files here in Sys. The first change that we made was the addition of this package and download all flash files button. And what this will allow you to do is collect all of these files that are listed on the screen here and into what's called an FL3 file, and that's just the file extension, but it behaves like a zip file. It's just a collection of all of these individual files. One thing we would like to caution you on is for both your VIMs and product link information, you still want to come over and verify that you're receiving the latest flash file information. This is just due to the way that these files are released in engineering. Sys is not always up to date because the engineering system is not always up to date for specific serial numbers. So they do have a way to fix a lot of this information, and they are periodically making progress, but you still want to validate as the spreadsheets are kept up to date rather frequently. So that's one note there. The next thing you'll notice is that we've been changing from an FLS extension to an FL2 extension, and this is providing several benefits. Most notably is the addition of these release notes here. So if you click on the release notes, you'll see that it pulls up any kind of changes that are in that flash file. It should tell you anything, if there's any specific notices, if there's a certain version of CAD-ET that you need to use, if it's tied to CPI issues, things along the lines of if there are any dependencies. So if there's any, you have to flash this file before this one, or you need to install a certain sensor before you flash the software. Anything like that should be contained in these release notes, and that hopefully will allow you to review these and make sure that you want to make the change or that you have the necessary pieces of hardware with you prior to flashing that machine, so you don't take it down and then have to make a return trip. So that's what the release notes are there for. The other notable change, and you'll see this more when we go into CAD-ET, but it's given us the ability to kind of match up these files to an ECM using a field that's inside the file now, as well as standardize the names that are displayed within Winflash. So typically the names that were displayed in Winflash on your your yellow ECM bar line there are what the engineering names are, and these adhere to certain engineering standards and are called certain things. But that didn't match up what was used in Sys. Sys has always displayed more the service name for the ECM, what's used in the factory, what's used in the service literature, and those two names didn't always match up. So you were left having to try and guess, is my input-output module in Winflash, is that really the advisor, or is it some other kind of display, things like that. So the FL2 file has given us a way to pull the name out of the actual file itself, as opposed to relying on someone in the factory to set that name and be close. So that kind of covers what we need to see in Sys. So now we'll move over to CAD-ET and we'll launch the Winflash feature. Again, it's very important to either have a product status report or an ECM replacement file created before you flash an ECM, just in the event that something would happen during that flash and blank out that ECM. That way you have a backup and you don't have to program all those parameters by hand. So ET will launch the Winflash feature here. And you'll see once it loads here that each ECM basically has its own section within Winflash where you can do things such as review information about the ECM, search for flash files, and then even choose the flash file that you want to load on that ECM. So you'll see here each yellow bar is an ECM that was detected on the data link. If you already have a file downloaded and you just an individual flash file, you can just browse right to that file, choose your file, click open, and it will populate it in there, and then you can click begin flash and flash that single ECM. So that's one way you can do it. If you expand the little plus out here, you can get more information about the ECMs. If you're connected to an ECM and you don't have the file and you forgot to load sys ahead of time, you can come down here, and if you click this little magnifying glass, it will search either sysweb or sysdvd depending on how you have your preferences set up, and you'll see that it took the part number off the ECM, we click search, and now sys is returning us with the latest version of that file. So you could then download that file and then browse to it and populate that ECM with it. Similarly, if you downloaded that entire package of files so that you didn't have to worry about taking more files with you or having to download them in the field, you can browse to that actual bundle file for a single ECM, and what CADDT will do is go through that entire bundle of files that you downloaded out of sys and see if it can find an exact match. And what's happening here on this screen is that CADDT found 2 files in that bundle of files that are actually compatible with this ECM. And this is another benefit of those FL2 files. What CADDT uses to determine an exact match is, if it's a unique piece of hardware, so an ECM serial number that can only be used for one application, or it's the location ID. So you can see this ECM does not have a location ID programmed, and a lot of FLS files did not have those programmed, and now we need to have those programmed in the FL2 files, and that's a requirement now for all FL2 files. So over time, when your ECMs are programmed with FL2 files and you're replacing them with a newer FL2 file, these things will line up and you won't even have to make that decision. But you can see here it's the chassis ECM. From the description you can see there's a chassis file, so you can pick it and click OK. It's just that from a programmatic standpoint, that's a free-form text field that ET can't rely on to make that determination. So we'll go ahead and remove that. And that was using the bundle file to flash a single ECM. And then lastly, we have the option here to load a product flash file. And this is the way that you can check all of the ECMs against your bundle file, and ET will make any matches where it can. So you'll see here we chose our bundle file, and now ET is going through and checking each ECM against all the files in the bundle. If it finds an exact match, you'll see it comes in checked already. Otherwise, you'll be left with those same decisions as when you go through the ECMs individually. If you come down here, you can see that we're on this ECM, the monitoring system. It's called an AC off-highway truck. Down here in the file, it was actually called just an off-highway truck, and that's why it was being flagged. So you can acknowledge these warnings. Similar here, there was no location ID programmed on the ECM. So you have your VIMS main ECM, your VIMS application ECM, and we know we're on the application ECM, so we'll just choose that file. Same here, we can come down and choose the main. This is our chassis example from before. So we'll choose our chassis file for the chassis ECM. Transmission, we can choose the transmission file down here. Same with brake. The brake, transmission, and chassis are all the same blank ECM, and that's why without a location ID, ET can't determine the match, and we use those descriptions. So once you get all of them chosen, go ahead and click OK. And you'll see now that CADDT has pulled in a file out of that bundle for each of those ECMs in Winflash. A couple other things to note here is, if you recall, we were talking about the sys name lining up with the names in ET. You'll see on the ECM line, you're still going to have the engineering name first, but we've also added in this sys name field. And this will line up then with your display in sys. So this one's VIMS application. Come over here, there's VIMS application. So now you know which files are lined up with which ECM. CADDT also has the ability, because those release notes are saved in the FL3 file, or in the FL2 files themselves, you can review those release notes from within Winflash. You'll see it's just pulling up a file off of your PC, and then you can go through those release notes and make sure you have everything you need to know before performing that flash. So once you have everything set up, got all your files in there the way you want them, come down here, click Begin Flash, And now you'll see that CADIT gives you the option of which order you would like these ECMs to flash in. So if you know you need to flash your engine ECM first, simply highlight it, click your up arrow, and move it up in the flashing order to the top. If you need your display, down, you can put them in whichever order you need to flash them in. Whereas previously you would have had to have flashed an ECM, kind of sat and watched it flash, and then pulled in another flash file, flash that ECM, and make sure you did it in the right order. Now you can set up all of them at one time, put them in the order, click OK, and you'll see that ET now is going to flash them in this order that you've set. And what that allows the person to do is they can go do something else while all of these ECMs are flashing, as opposed to sitting and just kind of babysitting it and having to pull all those files in. Now they can go finish typing up their service report, they can go collect their oil samples if they need to, just something else. That way, the customer doesn't see a technician just kind of sitting around waiting for the ECMs to flash.